Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders are both campaigning in the state of Wisconsin today ahead of next Tuesday's primary there. Meantime, a new national poll shows Clinton's lead may be shrinking. She leads Sanders by 6 points, 49 to 43. Though Clinton had a lead twice as large in the same poll just 1 week ago. Karen Finney, senior spokesperson for Hillary for America, is here with us to discuss it all. And let's get to those poll numbers. Karen,
sure.
Thank you for your time.
Great to be here.
The latest national poll again showing that Sanders now perhaps inching closer to Hillary Clinton within single digits. How is the campaign ingesting the information and perhaps looking to pivot?
You know, we are doing the same thing we have been doing all along, which is how we have 2.5 million more votes than Senator Sanders and a 230-some-odd pledged delegate lead, and that is a very strong ground game. That's what we're doing in Wisconsin. That's what we're doing here in New York, working very hard to reach voters where they are, making sure they understand Hillary's message about how she wants to create jobs in this country and increase incomes, talking about how we deal with terrorism threats like ISIS. So we're going to continue to keep working hard and, you know, making sure voters know where she stands on the issues that they care about.
In this process, it is always a question of real momentum versus perhaps the optics of momentum. Then looking at Sanders and the clean sweep this Saturday, winning 3 states out west, what was the reaction to those losses?
Well, you know, we weren't surprised. I mean, those were caucuses, and they were open caucuses, and they're also states that have smaller African American and Latino populations, and so we've yet to see Senator Sanders be able to put together kind of the broad coalition of voters that you need to win not just the primary, but frankly a general election. You know, he has not really won in any of the big states, particularly those states where you have large African American and Latino populations. Hillary has won in the North and the South and the East and the West and really shown the ability to pull together that coalition. So certainly, I mean, our hats off to Senator Sanders for those wins. But again, when we look at the rest of the calendar and we look at the delegate math, we feel good about where we are.
Senator Sanders has been pushing for a debate here in New York City. In fact, a top aide within the Clinton campaign, though, says that they would consider it if the Vermont senator changes his tone.
Well, there's a couple things going on there. I mean, we have established a process by which we agreed to add 4 additional debates. One of those was the debate that we had in Flint. And so that conversation has been ongoing. But then what we saw over the weekend was, you know, a Washington Post story about how they're, you know, polling new attack lines, and they kind of did a stunt in sending this letter demanding a debate in New York. So our point is, you know, I understand why you want to have a conversation about debates instead of a conversation about the math, for example. But we've already said, yes, we'll do these additional debates. We're having that conversation. Let's keep having that conversation. But at the same time, yeah, there's a concern that Senator Sanders said at the beginning of this process. He talked about how he's never run a negative campaign ad and he just won't do that. And then you see this story about how they're actually polling attack lines. So that was, you know, there was a concern there. But look, I think we'll work it out with regard to, you know, if and when there will be additional debates. We have already had that conversation.
There's always the math to be parsed here. This Sunday, Senator Sanders did say again, there is a mathematical path to victory for my campaign. Do you see it?
We don't. You know, he would need to win 57%, by 57% in the remaining of these big states. And again, as I mentioned, he hasn't been able to do that. He hasn't been able to, you know, he's lost African American votes in some of these big states 2-to-1. Latino votes a little bit more than 2-to-1. So we have not yet seen him be able to do that. He's been able to do very well in caucus states, but there's only, of the pledged delegates left, that's about 3% are caucus contests. So, you know, but look, they've got to do their job. They've got, you know, we understand that. They've got to spin and they've got to, you know, try to press their case. But I do think when you look at the math, and, you know, look, yesterday they were trying to say, well, we would have done better in some of these states, but we didn't really try. Well, that's not really an argument. I mean, for the voters who came out, that's not what they want to hear, and that's certainly not a general election message. So they've got to press their case. We get that, but I just don't think the pathway is there.
If the Sanders campaign, though, was to accept that there was no mathematical path to victory, again, Bernie Sanders has made it plain, we are staying in this to the end. There's been a lot of questions about what that might mean for Hillary Clinton, both for the better and the worse. What's the campaign stance on Sanders remaining in to the end?
You know, we always took the long view in this. I mean, number one, we always thought this was going to end up being a competitive race. That's just the nature of politics and democratic politics, and part of the way our system works. And we always took the long view on this. And you know, I was at the DNC when we actually made some changes to the calendar. So personally, I think it's a great thing, because the more people get to be engaged and involved in the process, I think that's a good thing. I think, you know, it makes all candidates stronger. I think it makes our party stronger in the end. So, you know, if Senator Sanders is prepared to stay in till June, okay. We think the pathway is going to probably look a lot more difficult after April 26th, but you know, that's a decision for Senator Sanders to make. There
was a report in the LA Times citing anonymous sources that the FBI will be interviewing Hillary Clinton's top aides now soon in the case regarding her private email server. How, if at all, do you think this will affect the campaign at this point?
You know, I don't think it will, because that story was really a rehash of a lot of what we already knew. I mean, they'd already said that. This review has been going on since last summer. At that time, Secretary Clinton herself said, "I'm happy to come in and talk whenever you want." Encouraged, you know, anyone that they wanted to talk to, that they should cooperate with this review by the Justice Department. So, not surprised to hear that they're saying, okay, that's now we're getting to that point. That's generally where, in terms of an investigation, when you're towards the end, that's about the time you would expect these kinds of interviews to be taking place. So, you know, the other thing I would say, Josh, the fundamentals of this have not changed. Hillary Clinton didn't do anything wrong. She was allowed to have to use that personal email. We now know Colin Powell did it, and we know that she neither received nor sent classified information. So the fundamentals haven't changed. Certainly, you know, stories kind of come and go, but we feel confident about where we are on that.
Cases Secretary Clinton has made time and again. It's also been pointed out, though, here by various Republican strategists that in the Democratic campaign here, Bernie Sanders committed to not making the emails an issue, but wait until the general, wait until Secretary Clinton pivots to the general election, whomever it is that she might be opposing, this will become issue number 1, 2, and 3.
Well, and they already have been doing that, no question.
And so is there any concern at this point with regard to how the investigation may be completing, that there's another layer of this onion to be peeled?
No, and I'll tell you something. When you think about Hillary Clinton and you think about, for example, the 11 hours that she spent, you know, sitting in front of the committee, talking, you know, answering all of their questions. I mean, one of the things that, I mean, I've known her for over 20 years. They have come after her time and time and time and time again. And every single time, a couple of things are true. Number one, there's no there. Number two, she gets right back up and keeps on fighting. And I think that is part of why people have so much confidence in her as a candidate, because they know, yeah, we're going to throw the book at her. We know it. I think the book is going to lose, by the way, but I also can tell you that, you know, she's going to keep fighting. We will keep fighting it as well. And I think that's an important distinction about who she is. I mean, the Koch brothers have said they're going to spend close to $1 billion, whoever the Democratic nominee is. I want somebody who's been tested time and again and can get back up and keep fighting.
Karen Finney, we appreciate the time today.
Great to be here.